Welcome back, folks, to another video where we're going to try to save another corpse from the ocean of video game consoles. Now, today on the desk, I have what I hope is going to be a really interesting video. It's a PlayStation 4 Pro with a catch. If we look on the back here, you can see that this PlayStation 4 Pro has a bit of a hole where there's supposed to be an HDMI port. I don't think that's going to work. But fortunately, I think we're going to be able to fix this. At least when I looked at the listing on eBay, they actually took a picture of the PCB of the main board in there and showed broken traces. So I already know that this is going to have a whole bunch of broken traces. I'm hoping that I can restore all of the traces on there, install a new HDMI port, and that the PlayStation 4 Pro is simply going to work. Now, of course, I haven't seen this thing work. Obviously, we can't plug in the HDMI, but I want to see if the console at least turns on and seems to give us a white light, you know, kind of any indication that it actually will work once we repair the HDMI port. And I did hear a really nice crackle, so that tells me that there is power going into this console. And the console turns on. And I don't see any light anywhere. It has no light whatsoever. Okay, that's a first. So, I mean, it's definitely making some noise. I can hear the fan. I don't know if that's going to pick up on the microphone here. But yeah, I mean, it is on. Let's see what the eject button does. That makes a good sound. I'm just going to grab a game and I'll just put it in there in the drive. Okay, it seems to accept a game. Didn't spin up though. Aha. Not what I was expecting. I was expecting it to eject, but okay. Okay. I mean, that all sounds pretty healthy to me, so I'm going to hope that this console actually does work. So I think it's only going to be the HDMI port. Next step, let's take it apart and see how bad the damage is. All right, and here we have the board out. So let's have a look. 3, 2, 1. When I originally bought the PlayStation, I already knew that there was going to be some carnage here. I don't remember it being quite this. Okay, well, good things first. The retimer chip, I guess, looks good. The filters are in place. What are they called? These are the ESD protection, TVS or whatever they are. I don't quite know, but I guess they are that. There appears to be some, I guess, a resistor or a capacitor maybe missing here. These traces are damaged. I mean, these are clearly like a whole bunch are ripped off. So, there's like a big scratch here. Interesting. All in all, what is that? That's like a whole trace just laying there? Oh yeah. Oh wow. Yep, that's this trace probably went originally over there. These are folded over, still present, I guess, but not as important. They're only ground. So, okay. We could lay those down if we really wanted to. So yeah, let's have a look. How many traces do we have to repair? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one looks like it's okay. 7. This looks like a no connect. 8, 9, and I'm not quite sure, but it also kind of looks like a no connect. No, it connects here. 10. So I think we have like 10 traces to fix to somehow put like wires from these traces over here. So it's going to be a bit of work. And then of course, clean up these holes, put a new port in. Hopefully that's it. And we're going to have to find out what component actually goes here. I'm hoping it's a capacitor because I do have like a capacitor kit that I could get a capacitor from and install it right there. That would be great. If it's anything other than that, I'm going to need a donor board, which I actually don't have. So yeah, I'm hoping that I can just use whatever parts I already have. And then hopefully that's it. So let's get to it. All right, so I think I'm fairly pleased with the result. That was a pain in the butt though. I'll tell you that. It wasn't really easy to do the trace repair, but I think we got there in the end. I pre-tinned the wires. I just put the ground pads down. I'm hoping that those will just attach to the pins, and you know, there's plenty of ground plane or ground pins actually, so I don't think it's really necessary that we put all the ground pins down. The only thing I think is important is that the pins don't cause any bridges, and that the pins actually attach to the pins, so that the wires actually attach to the pins. So I'm hoping that this will work. Let's try it out. I'm going to pre-fill the holes with some fresh solder, heat the whole thing up, put a port in, and then finally I think we have to replace this, whatever it was, capacitor, or hopefully not a resistor, but a capacitor, and then yeah, I think we're looking good. So let me put some fresh solder in this, and then go from there. That was quite the fight, but yeah, I got there in the end. It took me quite some time to get everything out of the holes. I'm pretty sure that these are actually, I don't know if you can tell, but these are still parts of the old port that were stuck in those through holes. So whoever owned this PlayStation before, or worked on this PlayStation before rather, definitely had some difficulty removing this port. And I guess they either tore it off or cut it off, or I don't know what they did, but part of the port was still stuck in there. So yep, fortunately now we got it all out, and I think we're now ready to basically put a new port in. So I'm just going to clean it up one last time, apply some fresh solder, and then go from there. All right, for this I'm going to put on a really wide nozzle so that I can transfer quite a bit of heat, but I'm going to try to keep the temperature to 360 because I think I'm going to try this from the top, or am I going to try it from the bottom? I mean, I could also try this from the bottom. All right, let's have a look at the handiwork. This stuff is not easy, but it is fun. So I hope I did a good job. Let's have a look. Well, let's zoom in a bit. I think it might even be on there. Might not be perfect, but sure as heck is on there. Let's have a look there. Even that doesn't look half bad. Nice. I'm pretty happy with that, actually. So I'm going to clean this up, and then I'm going to have a look and see if I have good solid connections. Hopefully we do. I guess we'll find out. One thing about these ports in relation, or in comparison to the like Xbox ports, is that it has like this encasing around it, so that makes it a little more difficult to see the actual pins there in the back. So a whole bunch of these are actually apparently not attached. Look at how high off the board those are. It's because of the wires. Okay. Well, I think we have a solder ridge, if I can point, on the right two pins there. And then there's a whole bunch of pins that we still need to attach because I don't think they got soldered down. So, okay, unfortunately there's a bit more work. Let's get to it. That's a ground, so that's okay. Good. Couldn't see that one move with the wire. Okay, that one is not yet connected, I don't think. So I think all of these are connected. So once again, I think I can see it just ever so slightly move with the wire. That one moves with the wire. Good. Moves. Good. 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 This pad was already loose, but it's a ground. So that one is good. Yep. Yep. That's also ground. And this one is not attached. Okay, so just the final one on the left. And then we should be good. All right, yesterday was getting a little late, so I decided it was time for a bed, and I thought I would just pick this up the next day. So what have I done so far? I think I basically should have now repaired all of the traces to the HDMI port. I'm just going to do a final check just to make sure that the pins are connected and that they look good. I see like a couple of things I don't like, for example, that there's like what I think is a little bit of solder sticking up here. Although that kind of seems to want to let go, I guess. Don't know. I'm just going to touch that with the soldering iron just to get rid of that. And I think all the rest of this actually looks pretty good. This through hole here, I guess, this via, I think this is going to be as good as I'm going to get because these sides are pretty beat up. There on this side, we can actually see that the solder did creep up the side of the port very nicely. So I'm actually really pleased with that. So I don't think I'm going to touch that any bit extra. So yeah, I think the next step is just to make sure that the pins are attached, that they look good, that there are no solder bridges. I think I want to test whether there is continuity from here to here on all of these filters just to make sure. And then I think we need to check what component belongs here, if any, and if there is a component that should go there, try to replace that one. And then I hope that that's it and we can test it. And fingers crossed that everything works. Who knows? Okay, first thing, let's see if the pins actually are attached now. So yeah, that looks good. I think I see that move with the pin, with the wire. That one's good. Oop, that one moved a lot. This is ground, I think. This looks good. That's attached. That's attached. That's attached. This one moves with the wire. That's a ground. This one moves with the wire, with the wire. That's a ground pad that was loose that I folded over. That's moving with the wire. That's attached. Just check one more time. Yeah, I think it's attached. That is another one of those ground pads. And then this is moving with the wire. Okay, cool. So I think all the wires are attached. All the pins look good. So I think the next step is, let me just touch this little bit of solder up right there. Let me point with the tweezer there. So that point is what I want to touch up because there's a little bit of solder sticking out, or sticking up if you want. And then I'm going to measure these filters and we'll move from there. Okay, let's go. Okay, good. I think all of those are working. I mean, that one's like mounted a little crooked, but I think it's actually on there. Okay, let me look on the other side just to make sure. Yeah, I mean, I tested for continuity between the pins. They don't look great, but I think it's good enough for me to test. I might clean it up at the end, or I might not. I don't know. Okay, next thing I would like to know, what, if any, component goes right there? All right, so I've been trying to figure out what component is supposed to go here. And I think based on a little bit of a Google search that there is supposed to be a diode here. Now, I wasn't able to find any schematics or board views that could help me tell exactly what component goes there. And the only thing that I could find was some other images of similar areas on PlayStation 4 Pro motherboards that kind of look like they have a diode here. Now, I don't think I found the exact same revision, this being an NVG004, but that's kind of what I'm thinking of. Then I got to thinking, I don't have any other PlayStation 4 Pro boards, but what I do have is a bunch of PlayStation 4 original boards. And so I thought I would just compare the HDMI ports and the circuitry around there to see what's connected on that final port on the right over there. So here we have one of the donor boards that I have. Now this board is completely messed up, so I can just use this for parts. But when I look at this one, first thing to note is that the port on these original PlayStations is mounted kind of like upside down. So if we compare this to the PlayStation 4, the left would be the right and the right would be the left. Now on the PlayStation 4, we were looking at the far right pin that was connected to something. So here I would assume that it's the far left pin, assuming that the circuitry inside the port is otherwise the same. Now, when I look around that port, I see a whole bunch of components here. And again, I see a whole bunch of diodes as well. And I thought I'd just measure in continuity mode, the mode that actually beeps, to see which pin, or what component rather, this final pin on the right here connects to. And when I go around the board and I check for any connections, now this being ground probably is not connected. This is not connected, this isn't, this, but this is. Interesting. And then that means that this is as well. And when we look and compare this with the PlayStation 4 board, we can also see that there was a resistor, and then there's a diode as well. So I guess this via is coming from there, and then it's connected to this diode to other circuitry, and then this resistor rather, and then this diode over here. So I don't know if it's the correct way to do things, but I think I'm going to steal this diode and install that on the PlayStation 4. and then kind of hope that that's all we need. Again, I have no idea if this is the right way to do things, but without any other information or other PlayStation 4 Pro boards that I can compare, that's kind of what I'm thinking might be a way to do this. I don't know, let's try it out. Oh, the other thing I think I could do is actually measure the resistance, although it's in circuit, and then just see if it kind of compares. So I just put the digital multimeter up on the screen. I'm in resistance mode, and then I'm just going to measure this inline. I know it's not the best way to measure this, but I'm just going to do it anyway. And that reads like 23 ohms. Okay. So let's compare that to what we see on the PlayStation 4 board. Rather, the PlayStation 4 Pro board. And if I measure this here, it's also pretty much 23 ohms. So yeah, I think that's probably the same kind of circuitry. I think I'm just going to install that diode on here and go from there. See what that does. So looking at the board, if we compare, we have the resistor, the common point, and that goes to ground. So on the PlayStation 4 board, the common point, so to say, so the stripe of the diode is pointing to the point that's connected to the pin. So ground is the other side. Okay. All right, let's go on a hunt. All right, perfect. So with that, I think, or at least I hope, that everything has now been soldered on. I think I'm ready to put this thing back together, at least far enough that we can test it and see if it turns on and has HDMI output. And it's now a couple days later where we have the PlayStation 4 Pro on the desk fully assembled. Unfortunately, the video footage of me half assembling it and testing it for the very first time is not very usable because I actually recorded it through the microscope. So I decided that I would just record this session again after the fact and show you the console as it's fully reassembled. Now, the good news is the console is actually turned on right now. And if I pan up, you can see that we have video output. So yes, that's great news. That's actually perfect. and I'm super duper happy that we got that HDMI port working. Now, that said, the PlayStation 4 Pro, like I said, is working perfectly fine. Wi-Fi works, the disk drive works, everything works. The only thing that doesn't work, though, is that light bar at the front. For some reason, I can't get that light bar to start working, and I've gone through the operating system. I've gone and checked if there might have been an option that you can actually turn off the light bar. As far as I know, that doesn't exist. I couldn't find anything online about that either, so I don't think that exists. So then I took the PlayStation 4 Pro all the way apart to check that PCB that you can find on the left here, which actually has the LEDs on there. I tested the LEDs, I tested all the other components on that PCB, and everything actually checks out just fine, including the ribbon cable and the connectors that the ribbon cable connects to. So I couldn't find anything that was wrong there, and that's kind of where I ended that journey. And I didn't really record it because it went on for too long. So for me, though, that's not really an issue. I still consider this to be a successful repair. I don't miss that light bar personally. I guess if I were selling it, I would mention it, but it doesn't seem to affect the functionality of the console in any other way. If you do know, though, what might be the cause for that light bar not turning on, or if you think there might be a component on the board that I could check out to see if that might be broken, that would be tremendously helpful for me as well. So definitely leave that in the comments section down below if you know something like that. All right, I think I'll leave it at that though for this video. Like I said, the PlayStation 4 Pro is now working. It's going to go into rest mode in a couple minutes, but yeah, everything is working just great. I really enjoyed this process. I definitely hope you did too. If you did like this process, what would help me tremendously is if you hit that like button. And if you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button. That would motivate me even more to create more content for the future. I just want to close this video with a thank you to all the other contributors in this community. You guys have really motivated me to create this channel, to create this video. People like JFix, like Andy Sir, like Rusty Rust Repairs, like Toltec Merc, and many others. This video would go on for way too long if I thanked everyone in that community. You guys have inspired me and motivated me to create this video, and I just want to thank you guys for that. All right, enough blabbing. I'm going to close the video here. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.